Hey guys, anybody that's out there happening to be joining, can you just let me know if you're hearing me? Where I've got my camera off at the moment, just because of just wondering whether someone could quickly put a message in the chat, uh, just to see if my voice is carrying okay. If you can hear me, okay? Yeah, thanks, Taurus guys. Just going to leave the camera off. Just as charged. This is a newbie, middle-aged, unfit podcaster who didn't bring a power pack, but I'll learn for next time. Um, and at the end of the day, yeah, look, guys, with Adelaide, what I want people to understand, you obviously seen towards the for those that were live, watching me live, you obviously hopefully saw enough at the end before my battery went flat, uh, to see that. To see that the the rally was called off, and I caught up with Mark just quickly before the battery went dead, and I was walking back trying to do a bit of talking. Look, what I really, I want to focus on positives with this. To be honest, um, the to me the rally in Adelaide was a tremendous success as far as I'm concerned, um, because if people saw my stream, and they saw the amount of people that were actually there. So that's what I want people to focus on. If you saw the stream and you saw the amount of people that were walking with flags and peacefully uh, flags, the amount of people that were there, and clearly there was more than 500. I'm not the one to talk about. And I want other people to make that call in regards to how many people were, what I focus on in regards to the last bit. So as far as I know, the person that got up to speak was a member of the National Socialist Network. Now, I also don't know whether he was actually a representative of Adelaide, South Australia. I honestly don't know, guys. I uh, I don't know if he was from Melbourne. I'm happy to be corrected. I don't know if he was brought over from Melbourne and to speak, or whether he's actually South Australian local. I'm happy for people to correct me. Can't look at comments at the moment, um, but let me know. Now, from what I understand from Mark, is that he had organised, as we know, Mark decided to take charge of this rally early on because he wanted it to be an event for Adelaide, um, not marked by the messaging that uh, everybody's focusing on, the media and our politicians. I saw a Facebook post just earlier about a politician again labeling it purely about the National Socialist Network and their views. I've spoken at more about my view. And they're entitled to their view, providing obviously there's no violence, there's nothing. The thing I believe what happened at the end is ultimately the person, someone else was meant to get up to speak. The microphone was handed to this person that wasn't speaking. Again, I can't clarify whether this person was actually a South Australian or an Adelaidean. Uh, and, and that's what happened. Now, Mark made it. The problem is that so many people have an opinion and wanted to talk into what's going on in our country and what they're concerned about. And clearly, we don't have the ability for many multitudes of voices to get up on the stage to talk, because obviously we want also, the message needs to be the right message, and Mark didn't shy away from the fact that he was trying to control the mic. He didn't shy away from that. So apparently this person obviously didn't have There was meant to be 4. Now, there was you saw how many people there were, and this is what I want you to focus on in regards to Adelaide. I still say it was an overwhelming success for Adelaide, because look at how many people were there. And then when they were unified in their chanting for Australia, you could hear the deafening noise of that in other podcasts and that as well. Now, the thing I want you to focus on in regards to that last little bit is there was obviously the media was fully around that stage, and there was a bunch of people close to the stage that that were able to be quite vocal, right? But I tried to pan around a lot to show you the expanse of everyday South Australians, Adelaideans, that were behind the people that were chanting it, that were carrying on at the front and saying, "Let him speak." And I'll talk into that a bit shortly. But the reason I say it's successful is that I totally agree with free speech. I think censorship's an issue, and Mark can talk further into the fact about who was given ability to speak and who was given the mic. He can talk into that. I can't talk for that. Now, the beauty, I've talked about this before, is that people that have a certain opinion and have a voice, obviously can have that opinion and voice. Then there's other people that agree with the reason we were there at the march, but don't necessarily agree with the messaging coming from others, i.e., in this case, I'd say the National Socialist Network. Regardless, they should uh, be able to say what they believe, as long as it's everything's lawful and not hateful and so forth. The benefit of free speech, if it works correctly, is that the voice of the other people, and in this case, I believe the majority of the people who were marching were actually silent during all that kerfuffle. They were just waiting. They were holding back, waiting for the mic issue to be solved, waiting for speaking to continue. They were waiting patiently. They weren't yelling out, and that was an enormous amount of South Australians behind me, Adelaideans, and that's what I want to focus on, is because the fact is that if we can either drown out uh, certain things that we don't agree with by being silent, uh, not cheering it on, or we can drown it out, counter cheer. And I believe, from what I observe, that the majority of people at the march today actually stayed silent because they wanted to hear from the organised speakers the message they had. So I believe it was a massive success because they showed that they weren't there for maybe the reasons that the National Socialist Network people were. And there might have been maybe, I don't know, 100 or so, maybe the front or whatever, whether they were all from Adelaide, whether they come up from interstate to belt the numbers, who knows? I don't really know. The focus is on the majority of South Australians that actually turned up today with the beautiful Australian flag flying. They uh, they did not endorse by a very vast majority the message from when the person was able to speak, um, and they really just wanted to know what was going. Most of them didn't even know what was going on. I was talking to people on the way back to my car. They were saying, like, who was that person? Like, who are they? They actually don't even have any idea what the National Socialist Network is or what they stand for or whatever. So a lot of people just were confused that they were there to talk about um, a white Australia, or have Hitler taught in the classroom, or any of these things. They were there because they love the Australian flag, they love Australia, they love what it stands for. They wanted to join with other Australians to push back on the topic of mass migration. This is one of the reasons. Plus, you can add a multitude of things onto that. So that's why I say, regardless of how the Adelaide March ended, obviously if the battery went dead, I went back to the car obviously so I could charge it, put it on charge. Yeah, so I didn't see anything untoward unfold. Uh, Further from that, the message was, turn a bit sour, they go south, turn around and go home because, we were there for peaceful. We want March to definitely want March. I was actually very heartened by the number of people that were there in Adelaide today, because I see that they're fed up, not because they are there because of the message of the social network. They were there because they've seen Australia's buckling turn. So I'm actually quite pleased, and I think Peter Malinowskis will pull out all stops to try and close down dissent and opposition, because the amount of people I saw there today understand and believe something's wrong. So I genuinely believe between now and March there's going to be a lot of momentum, and I'm really emboldened by the fact that so many people turned out. They were just really just frustrated with the way things are being done, and I am looking forward to working with Mark, anybody else coming up between now and March election, to really call out the Alaska state government as well. And, I believe that the numbers today really, really encourage me, to be honest. So that's one thing. Now, now I do want to talk about the whole idea of that free speech. Now, taking aside the fact that this person was invited to speak, that list of speakers that were meant to be speaking. So regardless of the fact that he wasn't able to speak and people were chanting for him to be able to let his voice be heard. So let's take that off the table for a minute. But I feel ultimately, if the conversation was had and say, okay, you want to speak, you've got a strict 5 minutes like everybody else was given, and say what you say. And at the beginning of that person receiving the mic back, someone else might have been able to say, uh, as an organizer, we're not endorsing this message, but we honour the ability and the right of this person to say what he wants. And the thing, as long as it's not inciting hate or violence or whatever, uh, the thing with that is, I believe if he had started saying something that was really uh, derogatory towards certain ethnicities or migrants or whatever, I would have loved to have seen people just turn their back or stay silent and allow him his 5 minutes and off the stage and see you later. That's I guess how things work, right? Because I truly believe, guys, from what I saw today, that the majority of South Australians and Adelaideans actually don't agree with white Australia only policy now. They don't agree with us uh, getting used to having Hitler taught in the classrooms and elsewhere. I don't actually believe that. Do we have an issue with excessive migration and the management of our country? Absolutely, we do. Do we have people in our country from different cultures and ethnicities, whatever, that destabilize things and do cause violence and whatever? Absolutely, but who doesn't? Tell me a story last time that a white Australian hasn't contributed or put out a happy sack, right? So the fact of the matter is that we need to be calling out. We need to be calling out everybody, regardless of their ethnicity, race, whatever, for doing the wrong thing and violence and everything else like that. We are a multi-national, multi-ethnic nation, and we have the most amazing and beautiful people living in our country. And if you look at the world in data or other things, Australia is actually very low in regards to being a racist country. We are not when you compare to other countries, right? So this messaging is totally wrong. So speech is a critical thing, because I obviously pushed back on Jackie Lambie the other day because I don't want my speech curtailed. Right? and others don't. And ultimately, what this comes down to, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, and Mark can speak into this himself, and could have been coordinated, said, okay, well, you weren't, let me just be clear, this person wasn't going to be a designated speaker. Um, but obviously, there's a number of people that want to hear him talk. Allow his 5 minutes, and then the rest of the people go, you know what, fine, you've said what you wanted to say. I don't agree with it, but let's get on with the day and have a great afternoon. But unfortunately, what happened at the end of the Adelaide rally is all designed, because as you can see, um, they did this on purpose. The media was right at the stage. The people that were yelling the loudest in regards to letting people speak and egging on all the go, the vast majority of Adelaideans, South Australians that were on the march today and saw the numbers, were actually just going, guys, I don't know what's going on, but we'll just wait and see what happens. Um, when when speakers were going to happen and it was shut down, then obviously everybody turned around. And I was talking to a lot of people on the way back on the walk, and people were just really going, well, who are they? What were they all about? Whatever, And okay, well, we might not agree with what they were saying, and we ultimately they say it, and we can ignore it, and get on with it, right? But we always knew this was going to happen, guys. But look, I'm not disheartened. I'm actually I believe today was a massive success, to be honest. When you reflect and look back on the numbers there today, it was a massive success in Adelaide. It showed other South Australians that there is something fundamentally wrong in our country. There is a lot of patriotism behind our flag. Sick of politicians demonising people using their flag because they're proud of being Australian and what this country means to them and what's it afforded to them. Right? They will the politicians, the bureaucrats continue this rhetoric. We've got to continue to push back on that. I'm going to continue to do that. I was really pleased that so many South Australians turned up, and I really, really hope, pray, that they weren't distracted from being able to look at coming together again to call out things that are happening in our country. We've got a massive issue here in South Australia. The emergency management legislation is absolutely an affront and atrocious. There's work to be done here in Adelaide, and it gave me heart to see so many people out on the street today for this particular march. And we've got the net zero 27 here in South Australia, one of the highest power prices in the country. We've got a declared climate emergency, which in conjunction with the emergency powers legislation. So Adelaide, there's a lot still to really push back on in our state. I'm really, I said this during the stream, and I'm really proud of Adelaide today with the amount of people that turned up. I'm proud of Adelaide for the majority, for really the majority being silent and not egging on the message that was coming from the speaker on behalf of the National Socialist Network, whether he's from or the others. Um, that the vast majority of Adelaideans that are pushing back on our government are absolutely not racist, and it's not about ethnicity or anything else like that. It's really about where we are as a country. It's excessive migration into a housing crisis, putting pressure on all of the associated infrastructures, and that's what it's about. And we'll continue to receive this pushback from the government and the media because they're on the back foot. They want to silence podcasters like me. I don't have a big platform, guys, right? There's other commentators that have a massive platform, hundreds of thousands of followers, if not more. They're all talking into these topics. We are growing as a community. If you have a look at, Topher Field, you have a look at Ruckshan, look at all the amazing podcasters on Michael Gray Griffiths' Cafe Lockdown. There is so many over in the West, Barry Green. Good on your, legend, for what you're doing over there in the West. There's so many of us now, and the government and the media are scared. They're on the back foot, and we've got to continue to do what we can. You know, but the messaging has to be right, people. The messaging has to be right. And we've also, if we don't like the speech and the rhetoric coming out of the pro-Palestine camp, which is very heavily influenced by socialist, communist ideologies, anarchist ideologies, if we don't like that, we push back on that in the same manner we do on the National Socialist Network or others, right? Or whatever group they are. If we don't agree with the message, we push back on it. And that's how this freedom of speech stuff works. I'm able to get on here and have my rant, and people might not agree with me and what I'm saying, and you know what? That's okay. But I'll try to, as much as possible, reflect and discern on having the right message, and the message is about unity. You know, party, the United Voice Australia, it's about unity. We need to come together with a united voice and push back on those voices that we happen not to agree with, but allow them to have it. The thing is the beauty of it, how it works, is that people turn their back on it. Right? They go, okay, we see you're there. We're not significant. Do your thing. You can have your view. As long as you're not violent, aggressive towards us, or whatever. You don't use violence or whatever. Do your thing. Right? You talk how you want to talk and say, but the majority of people are going to turn around and say, we actually don't agree with what you're talking about. And that's how this free speech stuff works. And Guy, I haven't had a chance. I'm 50-plus-year-old dude that works from home with a little bit of a belly, and I'm pretty stuffed today from today, to be honest. I've seen my step counter and the calorie counter. I think I'd probably do all right, and I'll feel my legs tomorrow, and my arms from holding the tripod up, guys. But you know, I don't regret 1 minute, 1 second of being part of that rally today. It was amazing to see the beautiful South Australians out there, getting out there amongst it. And look, whoever's commenting, I'm sorry, I can't see your comments at the moment. I don't know if this is resonating. I don't know if you're hearing me properly or what's going on, but I'm really, really glad that went. So I really don't know. I think Gail, I think, was mentioning about Hobart, unfortunately, turned the same way as Adelaide did in the end. I'm yet to see what's happened in Melbourne and Sydney and other states, but I can guarantee you, and I know we knew it's that the media turned it into an absolute did go what they wanted to do. Turn it whichever way they want. The politicians to get up, liberal politicians, apart from One Nation, get them to the platform and saying how they can get us for getting out there, race, gives them the platform. The media, the politicians that want to, they want to a big note themselves for calling this out and calling it something that it wasn't. Working with those groups that are looking to that's going to continue to happen into the future, guys. And we have the ability to be the change. We have the ability to have the right messaging. We have the ability to have the right voices, the non-hateful, the non-racist voices, the voices that talk into the concerns around this country without labeling other people from other ethnicities. We have that ability and push back on that. The media over time and politicians will be the ones that are called out. They'll be called out and seen for what they are, as people and entities that are destabilizing this amazing, beautiful country that's full of vibrance and diverse ethnic cultures that come together to embrace the Australian culture. And that's what it was. And I talked into the stream when I was walking around talking about all the different cuisines from different nations. The people that I worked with in my career, whatever, people are the most amazing people that you could ever meet, that I've worked with, and they love this country. They love what this country's afforded to them. The problem is that we're attracting people that want to get a free ride into this amazing nation, but bring the issues from the nations they've come from into our own, and many people aren't going to stand for that. And I think even the average Australians are going to push back on anybody that seeks to undermine the cohesion and the culture that we have got. That includes politicians and the media. They will be held to account eventually when enough people understand what's happening and the global internationalist influence around certain bureaucrats and politicians and media. When the Australian people truly find out that the people acting in against their best interest that have sought to continue to destabilise our country, there will be a reckoning eventually. It will come. So I'm taking lots of positives away from Adelaide today. I'm not going to focus on the negative at the end. The message was already sent in my eyes when I stopped and turned around and seen that army of flags, people walking down the street, front and back, marching shoulder by shoulder with other like-minded Australians that aren't racist, that aren't hateful, that were doing it for the right reasons. That is when we won the rally. From the walk down North Terrace and everywhere, that's when we won the day for Adelaide. The amount of people that turned up, the amount of people that didn't engage in the messaging coming out of the SN, that is what won us the day. That's how I truly feel that, guys. I don't think we can take a negative out of this. And again, I want to reiterate that I thank Mark Aldridge for everything that he tried to do to make today the most successful day. And Mark, to be honest, if you whatever, you can hang your head so high, mate, for what you did and tried to do for today's rally, as well as the people behind the scenes working with you. Obviously, the face of it that I saw. And Mark, you regardless of what happened at the end, for Adelaide was try to do everything you could to make the day a successful day. I honestly believe that the majority of people do not align, and I haven't made a secret of the fact that I don't agree with the messaging coming out of the NSN. Are they entitled to hold their view? Well, absolutely, as am I. But I honestly, look, I truly believe, the people around the country that march today in Adelaide don't agree with that messaging. They might love Australia as well. They might love the flag. They might be patriotic. But we can't go forward with the kind of messaging that they have. Look, and I could be wrong. That movement will grow. The democratic country, they grow, and their voice becomes strong. But I think the problem we have is that they are their messaging is ultimately correct. Is that they can't get their message out to have people make a decision around if people like that decision or not. So, at the end of the day, it really depends what people's views are. I don't know whether if they were allowed to speak and not censored so much or arrested every time they were going to speak, who knows how many Australians will go behind them. I don't believe many will. But anyway, guys, I think the sound might be a bit hard in the car with the sound. But if you can hear me okay, I don't know. I'm not able to obviously touch anything to have a look and see. But my message is, and obviously if the stream's shit and you can't hear me properly, just leave the stream. I'm gonna try and pull over somewhere shortly, but on my way home to spend a bit of time with the family. My message is that today was only the start of me working with others to push back on the government overreach, in particular here in South Australia. And I'll work with anybody to do that in a peaceful, non-belligerent manner. And we got to stop talking about the trivial stuff that the nuanced stuff about the movement. Whether someone turns up with a bloody blue flag or a red flag or an upside down flag, or whether they even want to fly a flag, whatever. These are all trivial things that actually stop the movement coming together because you're too worried about these little things, right? And everybody's working. But this is the problem with a bit of a problem with our movement, is that ultimately we all believe that, well, myself, under God, we have free will and choice, and the ability to make our own choices and discern, and that's why it's so hard for our movement to get together, to come under some sort of agreement together, to work together to push back on the narrative of the media and the government, because we're constantly giving the media and the government and our politicians ammunition to belittle the movement that's working against the government, and ultimately censoring speech, whether it's the NSN or others, is one of those things. But look, I do suspect, and I get the feeling that a lot of people were actually felt today was a great success. Today was a lot of people there for the right reasons, and I truly believe that the Liberals and the Labor and Liberal governments should be massively concerned about the movement they're seeing towards other parties that are starting to get a bit of traction, and the amount of people that are actually looking at alternatives. Remember, Liberals were in power during the massive overreach during COVID, and then Labor took over the reins from that. So at the end of the day, guys, the answer forward for our country is not with the major parties. It's with getting independent senators. It's getting senators from other parties into the parliament, and getting them out there and not voting. People that have that idea of not voting or not getting in there, you're only hurting. As I said, I went through the numbers. About 300,000 votes that could have got another senator, another member of the Legislative Council in, or another senator in the Australian Parliament. 300,000 votes in South Australia that went by the wayside could have made a big difference. But anyway, that's your right to decide not to. But my encouragement is that we have an opportunity to make a difference in March. We have alternative candidates. I'm not giving up on the election system. That's why I'm involved with an organisation who I'm not speaking on behalf of in any of these podcasts. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or the committee, but I'm working with a committee, obviously, to look at hopefully changing, getting things changed in regards to our voting structure, our constitution, and many other things to open up the discussion about changing that and strengthening that. So, but again, in my capacity of what I'm doing here, I don't talk on behalf of the committee or the board in that regard. These are my own views and not theirs. But ultimately, guys, we are getting momentum, and we are making change. And I'm absolutely reiterating the fact that I think we had a great successful rally when we all were walking down the street in the, I believe, thousands. As I said, I'm not going to spook numbers because I'm not good at that. But there was a lot of people, guys, and there was those people weren't the majority of the noise at the front of the stage, and that's all I'm going to say into that. Mark will talk into it further. That's up to him as an organiser, and not for me to say. I wasn't right at the front of the stage. I was back a bit, as you can see. I was trying to film up the top, and lifting the phone up a bit higher so people could see what was going on. Having a bit of a look around to see the multitude of people that were still behind the stage, that were kind of just waiting to see what was going on. But anyway, good on you guys. I just wanted to make it a quick, because obviously my stream went dead. If I'm going to go out again, I'll be having that battery pack. This is, newbie stuff, and hopefully, if nothing else, you got a little bit of value and insight about what was going on there. I'm not I'm not great at this. I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants and was trying to obviously tell my story into what was going on, my commentary throughout that couple of hours. And look, if you appreciated it, chuck us a like or a follow or a subscribe, whatever, or just in the comments, just let me know that you saw the stream, you appreciated the efforts, and obviously it wasn't perfect, and hopefully I can get better as we go, guys. So look, um, that's all about as much as I'm going to say. I'm sure obviously there'll be much more. Going live with Bruce tomorrow night on Wake Up Australia with Dr. Bruce Pay on my usual streams, and streaming to Cafe Lockdown and My Rumble and X and Facebook. We've Dr. Bruce Pay tomorrow. Unfortunately, I can't do it later just because of family commitments. So we stream sort of 5 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. And if you can join, that's good. And then obviously I'll keep you updated with regular updates and feeds through my new initiative, Faith, Culture, Politics in Australia with Mark. Is a new little initiative. I'm hoping to, get some interviews on there and talk to some people and talk into some of the issues that are happening in our country. So, look, I'm sorry that I didn't have the video on, and you've just heard my voice rabbiting on for those that hung in there to listen what I've got to say with the background noise and all that other sort of stuff. And I know it can be frustrating. So I guess those who found it too frustrating wouldn't have hung around and just jumped off the stream. But anyway, that's about it for me, guys. So God bless Australia. God bless South Australia. And I'm so humbled to see so many South Australians walking with me today. So I'm heartened to see what's happened today. So I'm looking forward to better things, and we'll see where we go from here, guys. So take care, all the best, and we'll talk to you soon.